What's up, everybody? It's another Monday. That means it's another Monday Mindset, Marketing, and Money. We are going to talk today about my experience in hiring salespeople, because I'm sure you're having to recruit and hire salespeople on your team. So today we're going to be talking about hiring salespeople. But before we get into that, I'm going to cue this intro, and I'll see you on the other side.
There are no bad businesses. There are just those people who don't know enough to see the opportunities in the work they're in. If there seems to be no future or opportunity in it, it isn't always because it's not there, but perhaps only because we can't see it.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Monday Mindset. Monday Mindset is live. That is right, Joe. Monday Mindset is live. Make sure you guys commented in. Let me know that you're tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about hiring. We're going to talk about hiring salespeople. What do you actually look for when you are hiring salespeople? How do you recruit the best to your team? I'm going to teach you what I know. It's not an all-encapsulating list by any means. Been at this for over a decade trying to grow this sales team. I have about 150 salespeople on the phones right now. And before that, we had about 100 people in outside sales. So when COVID hit, I had to end my outside sales, but we were hiring all the time for outside salespeople, inside salespeople. And I've really been trying to figure out, hey, what do you look for in a great hire? And how do you scale it? Because right now, for my company, Reminder Media, we are trying to hire 16 salespeople a month. 16 salespeople a month. So if you're in sales and watching this and you think, hey, man, I need a great career and I want to join a great company, shameless plug, would love to get your resume. In fact, what's interesting in our posting, I believe it was last month, we had 8,900 people apply for our sales positions. Now, I took my company virtual, so I have about 300 employees right now. Took it virtual during the pandemic, never came back. It actually opened up for me to be able to hire, and we're hiring in about 26 states right now. So it's given me a flood of candidates, but it makes it difficult when you get 8,900 people applying, right? And thousands coming in every week. How do you weed through it? What do you look for when you get on the interview, which is the most important? What are the traits and characteristics that you're trying to find? Good morning, Ryan. Good to see you on the show here. Appreciate so much you always tuning in. Joe, you're giving the mind blown emoji. It has been mind blown in the sense of we've made so many mistakes in hiring. I cannot tell you how many people or how many mistakes I've made in hiring. And I'm going to give you 4 traits that I look for when I interview people, and what I've taught my VP of sales and my sales managers and team leads to look for in hiring. I also want to share with you a game-changing tool that we implemented into our company years ago that has really helped us because we're getting so many applications. Maybe you're not getting all these applications, but you still need some way to start weeding through these resumes and figuring out, who do I pick? Now, I'm a firm believer that, I don't really look at the degree. I don't really look at, a lot of times, I think A resume doesn't tell the full story, even though you might have good experience that is applicable to sales. I don't think it tells the full story. I think the number one tool that we've used to shape the game for us is called the predictive index. So maybe you've heard of the predictive index before. It is a personality test. So you have the Colby test, the DISC test, the predictive index. The reason why we chose this one is because you can literally take the test in like 5 minutes. So everybody who applies at Reminder Media, they have to take the predictive index. And here's the great thing about it. You're always looking in business to be able to track what your results are so you can then improve upon them, right? So you're trying to get some data so you can improve. In fact, if you aren't tracking everything you do in sales and everything you do in your business, remember, you can't improve what you don't measure. Right? So you need to be tracking everything in your business, from the phone calls you're making to the activities. Like, give you an idea, my production team who's designing graphics all day long, we track how long it takes to design an ad so we can put some metrics on how fast ads should be designed, and we can know if somebody is performing well or not performing, or even more importantly, we can know, is there a hole in the process? Are we getting delayed for some reason? So you got to track everything in your business because you can't improve what you don't measure, what you don't track. So the predictive index gives us a way to track personalities. So we get all these applicants taking the predictive index. And here's what's been interesting in it. There's a ton of different personalities. I want to say there's like 25 or 26 different personality types that the predictive index will spit out. Not sure on that number, but we have found that there has been 4 that have worked extremely well in sales. So we've looked back at all of our top producers on the floor, and we have found, wow, believe it or not, everybody who makes it at Reminder Media in sales, whether it's on the phone or outside sales, tends to have 4 or fits into one of these 4 profiles. One is called a captain. The other is called a promoter. One's called a maverick. And then the 4th is called a persuader. So that is what the profiles are. But let me explain the profiles to you, because this will help you no matter what personality test you use. One is all of these personalities have a high A. And the A in the predictive index really stands for the dominance, the driving, the independence of the person. So in sales, I'm looking for someone from a personality type that has high dominance, high independence. Maybe they leap before they think. They're willing to go out on their own. The other thing that all these 4 personality types have in common is they have a high B. What does the B stand for? The B stands for extroversion. So this is probably what we all think of when we think of sales, is they have the gift of gab. They can friend people very easily, right? They're likable people. This tends to be true, of course. And they have a high B in these profiles, meaning they walk into a room and they don't mind introducing themselves. They walk into a room and they don't mind being the center of attention. We have found that to be true in these profiles. Here are the 2 things that I find very interesting when it comes to sales, or at least the successful salespeople in Reminder Media, is they have a low, very low C. So if you think of like the chart, you have your dominance out here, you have your extroversion, then you have a really low C. So these people are not patient, right? They are very driving. They do not have a lot of patience. And I find this to be awesome because you want them to be pushing for the sale. You want them to be pushing for a solution. You want them to have a lack of patience. Now, remember, when I say lack of patience, it doesn't mean that they have no patience with the prospect, no patience with the customer, but they have very little patience where they want to get on to the next task. And if they face rejection, doesn't faze them. They want to get on to the next phone call so they can get on to that next deal. So they have a very low patience in these profiles. The other thing that they have is a shift back, but low detail. So if you look at the chart, you have a super high A, super high B, very low patience, but then they hook back on the D, and the D really is the flex or the detail. Are they precise? Are they detail oriented? Salespeople are naturally not probably detail oriented, but they hook back a little bit because they know, hey, you got to document your notes correctly when you close the deal. So I see a little bit of a hook back in their detail, but still well below the average of what a normal, I shouldn't say normal, of what a lot of personalities have is they have very low attention to detail, but they know they need a little bit more detail than they have patience. Those are the 4 profiles that we find successful here at Reminder Media, and it has proven to be true. Now, what I tell my team is the 4 profiles aren't an indicator that you definitely will make it. It's not like we get all these candidates, we put them through the predictive index, and we're like, yep, all of these people will make it. What we have found, and sorry, my Instagram live here, pause for a second. Let me unpause this real quick. So what we have found is that if you don't have these 4 profiles, it's a really good indicator that you won't make it in the sale. And what I try to teach people is your personality is kind of like a rubber band. You can stretch yourself to be anything for a short period of time, but your natural state always wants to go back. You know how the rubber band always wants to go back to its natural state? So you can stretch yourself, but you're going to want to go back to your natural state. Wouldn't it be great to find someone whose natural state is someone that actually thrives in making high dials or door knocking or dealing with rejection or liking to talk to people? Wouldn't that be nice to find that person? Because day in and day out, if you're stretching yourself, the tension's just too much and you're going to want to go back. And if you don't enjoy those things, if you don't enjoy being the center of attention, having low patience, low detail, then you probably won't succeed a ton. All right, so those are the 4 profiles, but let me get to the more important, which I think is, what do I look for when it comes to hiring salespeople? And again, I want to give the caveat of like, man, this could change in 2 years after my new experience, right? But after a decade of hiring salespeople and failing a ton and succeeding, I have found that I want to check these 4 boxes. And what I'm trying to build for my sales team and my recruiting team is I want data. So I want the data of the personalities, and then I want the data of these 4 checkboxes, meaning I want to see if they check these checkboxes, do they make it on the sales team? And we have found that people who score high in our questioning on these 4 checkboxes, they tend to make it in sales. So the first thing I look for in the interview, whether it's a Zoom interview or a face-to-face interview, is I look for energy. It is the most important. Enthusiasm, energy. Now, don't mistake energy with volume. A lot of times people mistake energy with volume. You don't have to be the loudest to have amazing energy. Think about the people that you know of that walk into a room and they just are captivating. They walk into a room and you just love being around them. They lift up the room. They're not a drainer. They don't bring you down. They lift you up. That energy. Here's a huge mistake. Huge mistake that my recruiters have made. I have probably even made myself, is we get onto these interviews. We interview someone face to face, especially for sales. And guess what we do? We bring the energy. We bring the energy as the interviewer. We're bringing this energy because we're like, oh, we want to make the person feel comfortable. We're natural salespeople. We bring the energy. Huge mistake. Don't bring the energy when you interview people. Their job is to bring the energy. One of my great sales trainers, I told him this. I say, hey, you know the big mistake you're making on your interviews right now? Because I was watching some of his interviews. I said, man, you're getting on there and you're making that candidate feel so comfortable immediately. You're controlling the environment, and now you have no idea if they can control an environment. What you want to do is you want to get on your interview, or when you have it face-to-face. I just do a ton of them on Zoom, so that's why I keep saying getting on your interview. But when you get on there, when you meet them face-to-face, almost be a little awkward. Because a great salesperson, guess what? They're going to make it unawkward. A good salesperson is going to naturally start communicating with you. Someone who has great energy is going to show you active listening. They're going to be nodding their head. They're going to be smiling, right? They're going to be looking you in the eyes. And remember this, they're their best on the interview. Don't you settle at all. I have settled so many times. People are their best on their interview. They're going to be nervous. Give them grace for being nervous. But when it comes to how much they're trying, that is their best. So if you're hiring someone to sell for you and they come to the interview, that is how they're going to be when they meet your prospect, because they're giving their all. The deal is to get a job with you. They're trying to close the deal. So that energy that you're feeling, the comfortableness that they give you, hey man, that's what they're going to give your prospect. So keep that in mind when you're interviewing them. But so often, you know what we do? Here's a big mistake I've made, is I tend to put it on me. I go, well, I can coach this person up. I can help this person. No. Big mistake. Bill Belichick is not trying to hire somebody or recruit somebody for his team where he has to literally be the one that trains them up in everything in football. No, he's trying to hire or recruit the very best talent, and he's just trying to mold them and shape them. Harvard does not create the smartest people. They just recruit the smartest people, right? Every year, Harvard goes and selects the very top of the top from every high school. They didn't create them. Those people created themselves throughout the school system and what their work ethic was and everything like that. They just mold them. They point them in the right direction. They give them things to accomplish. That's your job. You're not trying to create the best salespeople. You're trying to find them and to mold them and point them in the right direction and give them a vehicle with inside your company. I made a huge mistake for many, many years that I thought, oh, I'm going to be I'm creating these Harvard candidates. No, I need to go select the Harvard candidates. I think I heard it said one time that the championships are won in the draft. The championships are won in the draft. Your company is going to win in your drafting, in your recruiting. So energy, huge. Second thing that I look for is I look for sales ability. You might classify this as communication skills. So what do I mean by this? So one of the things that I do when I interview people is I'll say, hey, Joe, appreciate you coming on. Hey, I know you've had a chance to look at Reminder Media. If a friend were to come up to you right now and tell you or ask you, who is Reminder Media? What do they do? What would you say? What I want to see there is how good is this person at being able to come up with something on the fly and eloquently be able to communicate their thoughts. Because salespeople have to be quick-witted a lot of times. They have to be eloquent in their ability to deliver complex things, simplify them down. And not to be funny, even if you BS me, even if you have no idea, and I can tell, okay, you didn't do your research. Well, that maybe is a mark against you on a character trait I'm going to talk about. But your ability to be able to even make something up is powerful. Because it tells me, okay, this person has the ability to think on their feet very quickly, have been thrown a situation and be able to communicate succinctly and well, and they actually can deliver a response. If somebody's mumbling over themselves, tripping, can't deliver a response very well, doesn't want to communicate, that is a knock on them. And I realize, hey, this is their best. They've prepared for this and they're not able to respond. So I'm looking for sales ability, communication skills. The other thing that I do is I want to walk them through overcoming objections, because one of the hardest things in sales, right? I always tell people the two hardest parts of a sale is the intro, which is earning the right to pitch, and then the close, which is overcoming all the objections. Everything in the middle, it doesn't matter if you're selling pins, fertilizers, magazines, insurance, it doesn't matter, right? It's like all that is your presentation of the product and the value proposition. And of course, there's things there that you can improve. But the real thing is, can you earn the right to turn a cold prospect into somebody who will listen to you? And can you actually get them to make a decision? Those are the two hardest parts of the sales. So I actually test them on their objection skills. I actually say, hey, I want to talk to my partner. How would you overcome that? And hear what they say. Remember, if you're going to hire a contractor to lay cinder block, don't you want to see how they lay cinder block currently? How they actually do it? Doesn't mean you can't train them and help them a little bit, but don't you want to see what they're doing? So often we don't test people on the actual skills that we are trying to recruit them for. A great way to do this in your interview is ask the person if they have experience in sales. Hey, what's something that you sold recently? Oh, I sell, home security. Fantastic. Sell me the product that you're selling. Sell me what you're selling right now, and get them to sell you, because now they have no excuse. It's not like they didn't do their research. They don't know your product. They don't know the features, the details, the pricing. Hey, what have you been selling? Sell that to me. And now you can see how they actually sell currently, and you can look at their sales ability. And what I look for in sales ability is quick-wittedness, the ability to be succinct, the ability to not talk too much, right? The ability to ask the right questions. I'm looking for that in the sales communication, because if they have quick-wittedness, eloquence, and they can actually ask questions and they can listen and practice active listening, I know I can train them on my products and features. They have the naturalness. I just have to mold, direct it, and shape it in the right area. Okay, so the third piece that I look for, I'm just looking at some of these comments here. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. He said, so good. Ryan, you said, so often I catch myself trying to sell the opportunity to the applicant. Yeah, man, I have fallen into that same trap. Your job is not to sell them yet. Their job is to sell you. After you're sold, after I spend 30 minutes with somebody, maybe 45, and they've sold me and I go, this is a great candidate, then my sales comes on. Then I sell why this is the opportunity for them. But I don't enter into the conversation selling them. They have to sell me. So the third thing I look for in my interviews is I look for hunger. Les Brown says they got to be hungry, right? You got to be hungry. I look for hunger in the person. My best salespeople, came to me broken and beaten down. One of my best guys, drug addicted, right? One of my other best guys, 30,000 in debt, living in his car, right? So my best salespeople came to me broken, beaten down. But guess why I mentioned that to you guys? Because they had a hunger and a resilience, and they were trying to bring themselves out of that. Oftentimes, I find that if you can find the adversity that someone has faced in their life and how they overcome it, and not just how they overcome it, but why they are overcoming it, where they're going, what they want for themselves, that is a huge indicator of how successful they'll be. Salespeople must be resilient. You can teach people all day to make the phone calls, teach people all day to do the scripts, but if they don't have the resilience to take 98% rejection, they'll never make it. So a question I ask people is, hey, tell me about the hardest adversity that you faced in your life. How did you overcome that? And what brought you through that? What was the why behind that? I love hiring people with kids. I absolutely love it because I know when push comes to shove, I can go to them and say, hey, you're doing this for your family. You're doing this for your kids. I love hiring people with kids because they have a natural why. They're naturally driven to succeed for their kids. You need to find out their hunger. This is the hardest one for me. Please chat in. If you have questions that you ask to determine if someone's motivated or hungry, please chat that in, share that with us, because I am looking for more and more questions to try to dig in to, okay, this person has great energy. This person is good at speaking. They have sales skills, but are they hungry? Have they overcome adversity in their life? And another question I ask people is, what vision do you have for your life? What's the vision for your life? Right? The stereotypical interview question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's the vision you have for your life? Who do you want to be? What are you trying to accomplish? And I find that salespeople or driven people, they might not be able to eloquently tell you step 1, step 2, step 3, but they have a vision for their life. They want to be successful. And a lot of times it might be as simple as, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be poor. I know for me, my dad was a pastor. He made $11,000 a year when we were growing up, man. We never went out to eat. There was 8 kids in my family. I remember my mom and dad, they were amazing parents, but I remember them always stressing about bills. My dad always worked 2 to 3 jobs. He was a pastor and he delivered papers. He was a pastor and he was a Spanish teacher. Like, he was always working 2 jobs, and they always stressed about bills. I didn't want to stress about bills. Part of what drives me is I don't want to be poor. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to have to stress about bills, and I don't want the people around me and my family to stress about bills. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that hunger inside of people, whatever it is that I can tap into and go, okay, this is going to push them through on the days where they've been rejected and they've done 300 dials 4 days in a row. They haven't closed a deal and they feel beaten down. This why is what I can remind them of and tap into to motivate them. Do they have a big why? The fourth thing that I look for as I wrap this up, so to summarize for you, I'm looking for energy, sales ability, hunger, and then the fourth thing is character, right? So I've worked way too hard building this company. We've worked way too hard. You've worked way too hard to allow someone on your ship that doesn't stand for your values. And I heard this said the other day that I thought was really powerful, which is your values are something that you should die for. You should be willing to die for your values, meaning you should be willing to sacrifice getting an A-list talent person if they don't believe in the same values you believe in, if they don't have character, if they don't represent your company well. What do I mean by character? Well, one thing I mean is, are they ethical? Are they going to treat my prospects and clients the right way? They are a representation of me, and are they going to represent my business the way that I want it to be represented? So how do you test for character, right? Well, one thing that I look at is, how prepared did they come to the interview, right? How prepared did they come? Now, salespeople naturally don't do their research, just FYI. But how did they prepare for the interview? That's one thing that shows me, hey, they're actually trying. They actually have a little bit of work ethic. They're taking initiative. Another question that I ask that I think is really powerful is, how do you give back? So when you're on an interview, go, hey, how do you give back? And you'll see right there, does this person think about others? Does this person have something in their life where they're giving back? One of my team leads that I hired, so powerful. I'm talking to them and they're telling me about their story and their life. And I said, well, how do you give back? And they opened up and shared a personal story with me of how someone in their family passed away. And they passed away because of an addiction. And now they spend their time mentoring young women that have that same addiction. And it was a really genuine story. That's it. And it was just so powerful to hear, wow, this person is giving back. They're thinking about others above themselves. I love hiring people who have a greater purpose than just making the money, that they're actually giving back. And so ask people on the interview, how do you give back? How do you give back in your life, right? And it's not going to be maybe the exact same belief system that you have. That's not what I'm looking for. They don't have to believe exactly what I believe, but I'm looking at, do they value people? Do they get value giving back? And does it fit into my values as an organization? So those are the things that have helped me tremendously in hiring. Is I use the predictive index to source out the personality, because I want the rubber band to be in the natural state that does well in sales. I don't want to have that person stretching themselves 24/7. And then I look for energy, sales ability, hunger, and then character. And I try to test on those things. If you have questions that you ask to try to weed these things out, because it is so hard in an hour interview, in a 2-hour interview, maybe 3 interviews in a row, to try to get to the real heart of somebody. It's so hard. I'd love to get your questions. So if you watch this in the Insurance Syndicates, or you watch this later on my Instagram, wherever, and you have questions that you ask that are super powerful, please share that so others can see it. One thing I will tell you that was really powerful, I was listening to a podcast one time, and a billionaire said this, and it really resonated with me. He said, an A-list player, in the first couple weeks of hiring. He goes, never have I found that I've hired somebody and they weren't an A-list player and all of a sudden they became an A player. I've always found that A players, within the first 2 weeks. And the reason why I say that's resonated with me, and I don't know if it's an ultimate absolute truth or not, but here I'll share from my experience of a decade doing this, building a multi-million-dollar business. I have found it to be true. When I hire people, I know within the first 2 weeks, are they an A player or not? The way they carry themselves, the energy they bring, the character they have, the initiative they take, the work ethic they have, the passion they have, like you just know right away, wow, I hired an A player. And your job as a coach is to try to take your B players to A players, but just know that, hey, if you're wondering, did I make the right hire? This billionaire, I think, said it best, within the first 2 weeks. So if you're already questioning it, you probably didn't make the right hire. And now you have to make sure you coach them up or coach them out. And that's the job of a great leader. And when I say out, it's out to the next thing for the betterment of their life, right? They don't want to be stuck in a job that they're failing out, not succeeding at. They want to be moved to a position where they can succeed. So you're either coaching up or coaching out. Hey, guys, I hope you have a great week. It's Monday Mindset. Hope this influenced your mindset. Hope it influenced your hiring so you can influence your money. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. And I'll be back next Monday. So make sure you check it out. I hope you guys have a great day. See ya.